Welcome back to Exhausted Sparrows Unite. I am Krista Jones, your host, talking about all things authentic, giving ourselves grace, getting through the day without negative thoughts. And I'm here with my good friend Tom Morel. He and I go way back to the radio days. We'll be talking about that. And we're going to tackle something that we all face. Actually, we probably all face it daily. And it's negative thoughts and patterns, or as I like to call it, Stinkin Thinkin. This episode is all about reframing the way that we think, challenging those inner critics, meaning AKA ourselves, and finding healthier, more productive ways to navigate through life's challenges. So I am here with, as I said, my good friend Tom, who brought his own coffee today with Snicker and eggnog in the mix.
Yeah, instead of creamer. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Instead of creamer, I put eggnog in it.
I gotcha.
Because it's that season, right?
It is the season. We are recording this podcast between Christmas and New Year's because, I don't know, Tom and I we like working.
There's a very small window that you can have eggnog, by the way, where that's acceptable.
Oh, and
like
this would be the window.
Yeah, like if you have eggnog in like February or March, you're just crazy. That's just crazy. Nobody's drinking eggnog in March.
I feel maybe I'm drinking it in February for Valentine's Day. I could make it go, no?
I could see that.
How about maybe hard no for July?
Oh, absolutely not. No. You're a wacko if you're drinking eggnog in July. But it's the season, so
yeah.
When in Rome, right?
When in Rome.
Yeah.
And Rome wasn't built in a day, so you should do it for like a month.
No, but they could have done it faster if they had eggnog in. Either way.
So Tom and I go way back to radio station days where Tom was taking and editing everything that I said on every single commercial that I ever did in the iHeart Radio world. And I was on air and we became good friends, good buddies. And we just recently on this wonderful journey that we're on here at Sparrow's Nest, we recently did a gala together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Tom, we have so much fun together. I'm like, just come in the podcast. Maybe you'll be one of the new co-hosts. Wouldn't that be great?
And I said, that sounds like a brilliant idea.
Because I feel you and I banter back and forth so easily,
100%.
And you've got lots of great stories about me. So
I have a few stories. Not. I don't know how many we can say here, but that's okay.
Right, but I said to Tom, I go, all right, Tom, what do you want to talk about? Because that's kind of what I do with my guest.
Yeah,
I don't want to tell you what to talk about. I want you to tell me what you think we should talk about. And you said
the stinky thinkies. Is that what you called them?
I called it the Stinkin Thinkin.
Thinking, yes.
My friend Nicole
I don't call it that. That was your words. But yes, it's the same kind of concept. As a negative self-talk or like finding yourself in situations where you're stressed out.
Yeah.
Because of some sort of unmet expectation.
Right.
Like you go into a situation thinking A is going to happen, but in fact B happens, and it throws off your whole vibe.
It does.
We've had that, right? The quote unquote bad hair day, right? Where the first thing you wake up, your hair isn't sitting right, and now it ruins everything else the rest of the day, right?
I laugh because Tom doesn't have a ton of hair.
No, but I have bad hair days.
Right.
Guys have bad hair days.
Right.
You know, they don't happen as often, but but it's not always the bad hair day. That's the stereotype, the prototypical thing. But, it could be that you stub your toe or your alarm is not going off at the right time or the dog wants to go out 20 minutes before the alarm goes off, whatever it is. And then that kind of reframes your entire day in a negative way.
So here's something really interesting that I read. We have about 60,000 thoughts a day.
Oh my God.
And 80% of them are negative.
So the first thing, 60,000 thoughts, that's exhausting to think about that.
I feel like I have more than that as an ADDer, if that's a word.
Can I be honest with you? That's probably right. Because I agree. I'm in the same boat. Because I think of, if you're like me, every scenario that happens in life, I replay it in my head like
the 53 scenarios of that.
Christian is a football coach, right?
Situation. That's my husband, for those of you that don't know, yes.
So Christian is a football coach. His whole life is about watching game film, right? And all he does is he watches the same play over and over again so he can see what the left tackle is doing, what the right tackle is doing, and I replay every situation in my head that's happened or hasn't happened yet in my head probably about 1,000 times.
Which is how you eventually get to 60,000 thoughts.
Yes, that's probably where,
in a day.
By noon,
in a day. And I think the problem is, right, like we can categorize these thoughts. Like we have the catastrophe thoughts. Like everything is now because you've stubbed your toe, you've had a bad hair day, it's going to be awful.
Now everything is based on that toe being stubbed,
Everything is based on that. We can have the all or nothing experience where we see it as black and white, which also is the toe thing because the toe happened.
Yeah.
Nothing else could possibly go right.
Nothing else can go right today because that happened. Yeah, of course. But what's interesting with the 80% you said, right? 80% of those thoughts. So I did some life coach assistance. I got some assistance from a life coach a few years back with a particularly traumatic event that happened in my life. And I was kind of looking for some direction in life. And one of the things that we tackled was this negative self-talk, right? And so one of the things that she helped me with was identifying that voice in your head as someone other than yourself. So I named that voice in my head.
Nothing.
Is Mike, actually. Mike. Yeah, Mike. So and part of the exercise was I personified who that voice was, what that person looked like, what that person sounded like, what they smelled like, what they just everything about that. So it's a separate person from myself. And through the process of this this life coaching, I finally arrived at the destination that I was supposed to, which is that the negative self-talk like that is actually meant to protect you. It's not meant to degrade you. It's not meant to put you down. It's meant to protect you. And here's what I mean by that, right? You're in a situation where, let's say you apply for a job, right? And your first negative thought is, what are you doing, Tom? You're not even qualified for this job. The job's too far away. You're going to have to change. You got to get a whole new wardrobe, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you got a new job. You got to get a whole new wardrobe. You can't wear jeans and a T-shirt.
Traumatizing.
To the new job, right? And then there's going to be new people. You don't even like new people. You don't even like the people you're around.
You don't even like
Tom,
people.
Right? But all this negative self-talk, what are those things? What's the core message in those things, right? Is protecting you from this change that could be bad for you, right? That could potentially not be great for you.
But this is a real thing because it was useful in prehistoric times, right? Because we had to, way back then, not you and I particularly, but great grandfathers, we had to pay close attention to threats, right? Like predators and plants and weather and all of this stuff. So our brain had to prioritize danger, and it had to then turn around because it was at times a life or death.
Oh, so definitely, yeah.
It kind of is a flight or fight.
Absolutely,
response.
It is, yeah.
But I feel we take it to areas that aren't always helpful, but sometimes can be degrading. Is this where Mike came into play? I want to know a little bit more about Mike.
So Mike was the one who was telling me that I wasn't smart enough, or I wasn't handsome enough, or I wasn't, I don't know why those two things came out first. I wasn't smart enough.
Handsome enough. All lies.
I wasn't good looking. No, I'm just
lies. All lies.
I wasn't tall enough, or I was too fat, or I was too this, or I was too emotional, or whatever those things are, right? Those that, like you said, the fight or flight. And what I was able to do was reframe that negative thought into, well, what's the motivation? Why does Mike want to put me down? Mike is me, right?
Right.
Essentially, at the end of the day, Mike is me, but why am I putting myself down? What motivation do I have for that? So there's always they always talk about with murders, there's a motive, right? Well, what's the motive here? So I really had to do some digging and think like, well, if I was acting that way towards somebody, if I was telling them, hey, Krista, don't take this new job, don't do this new thing, because here's X, Y, and Z reasons why you're probably going to fail at it. Well, that's the key right there, because you're probably going to fail at it. I'm trying to avoid failure. I'm trying to avoid that negative part
But let's take a look at what you just said, because you would never talk to a friend like that. You would never say to a friend that was going to get a job, you would never talk so degrading to them and say,
Not
why would you
necessarily.
do that? Why would you? That's awful. You shouldn't do that. You're fat in that outfit.
Yeah.
Like, you would never.
Not necessarily, but in some situations you might, the attempt might be to save, like if you're really honest with somebody, right? Obviously, with friends, you want to be supportive, but you want to be honest too. Like if my friend said, hey, listen, I'm going to try out for the NBA. Listen, Chris, you're 5'6" and you weigh 250 pounds. I don't think the NBA is for you, right?
Right.
I'm trying to protect him from embarrassment or failure, right? Not that I think that he's a bad person or that he's not this or whatever. It's that I'm trying to protect from that. So that's how I've always kind of looked at my own negative self-talk. Is there's a little bit of truth to it, right? There's an element of truth to it, because otherwise, I mean, it just doesn't come from whole cloth. It's got to come from somewhere. Maybe I am out of shape, right? But if that's something like going to the NBA is part of my goal in life, then what do I need to do to get there?
Sure.
What do I need to do to reassure Mike that this is something I can do? That's part of like that's where I think 80% of those negative self-thoughts is not degrading. Those things are meant to protect us. It's like like you said, way back in the day, when we were kids, right? And we said, hey, Mom, Dad, we want to do XYZ. We talked about broadcasting, radio. When I was in high school, I told my parents that I wanted to be a radio DJ. And they were like, you don't want to do that, Tom. And I was like, no, this is my dream. This is what I want to do with my life. This is my passion. Nah, you don't want to do that. You want to, because think about this and think about this and think about it, right? And they would give me all of the reasons why not to do that. And it wasn't because they didn't want me to be a radio DJ. It's because they didn't want me to be dirt poor. Right?
I mean,
because they didn't want me to fail at something that they didn't think that I would be able to do.
But
and it's not that I'm not saying it's a positive thing. I'm not saying that. It's not, but their motive behind it. And if you understand the motive behind somebody's speech, right, behind what they're actually trying to say, you can understand it better and reframe it in your own mind better.
Well, but let's talk about our own mind, because there's not a lot of us that are confident.
That's true. I can agree.
Right? So when you say there's a little something in there that is feeding these negative thoughts, I mean, I think we can really drill it down to we don't have the confidence. I mean, the whole point of the podcast, right, is that we are seeing these filtered lives on social media. We are getting that Christmas card. Oh, please don't send me that Christmas card with what your family
with your beautiful
did
family
all year long.
Yep,
When I am just trying to survive and take a shower. And I think if we drill it down, none of us have that confidence. Somewhere in us, we just don't think that we can do things. Part of it is absolutely a protection thing. We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be put in these awkward situations where it's not going to turn out the way we want it. But we also have to reframe what we think about ourselves. Down in the core, that is the problem. How we feel about ourselves, that seeps into every area of our life.
So now let's go to that Christmas card, right?
Oh, that Christmas card.
Because here's what I do, right? I get the Christmas card. It's the one from, whatever online company that prints them out. And there's this perfect, absolutely pristine photograph on the front where they're all wearing matching clothes.
I'm okay with that.
And the dog is sitting and looking directly at camera, and the background is perfectly like faded out, and it's just this. They all had to go to Kohl's to find the matching pajama set or whatever they had, right? But Dad's set, the extra large, he's actually a 2XL, but they didn't have 2XL, so he had to order it, right? Yeah. But then by the time he ordered it and got it at the store, it was the wrong color, right? So then he's got to return it again. All of these things, all those scenarios play in my head in the background. When I see that card, I don't go, wow, this is perfect. I go, I can't imagine all of the things that had to go wrong in order for this to turn out 100% right.
I love that you look at it that way.
Because if I don't, what happens?
Yeah, you spiral.
My God, my picture's not perfect, and I didn't have the card, and and I waited too long, and I don't have the.
But I'm not even talking about that card. I probably should have said I'm talking about the card where you get the letter.
Oh, the letter of their whole life, the whole life story
from everything that happened that year.
So, can I reframe that to you for you?
Yes.
So, I only had one family member who would send like a recap of the year. It was like a 2-page typed out on. It was very cheesy, but I remember it nostalgically now, and I'll tell you why in a second. It was this like bordered paper. You know, you like back in the day.
Yes, we did. We had that really nice stationery. It was bordered with
but
something.
It was like ultra cheesy Christmas hokey.
It's all we had.
And you'd print it out on the computer. And, you know, it's signed at the end, you know, hope you have a great holiday, blah, blah, blah. But it was telling you like, oh, Jimmy got an A+ in science and Sally got a trophy in swimming class, whatever. Okay. The only person I ever got those from was my dad's Uncle George and Auntie Ann.
Uncle George.
Uncle George and Auntie Ann.
My dad's name is George.
Yeah.
It is. Go ahead.
And they're fantastic people.
But
they were fantastic people. Because they're no longer with us. So now, when I don't get those.
Oh, Tom, you're making me feel bad.
Well, no, I'm saying, but that's like,
yeah.
You don't realize how awesome it is until it's not there.
Yeah. You know what, though? Uncle George can send the card, but I want you to put some real life things in there.
Well, there were some real life things in there.
Yeah.
It was like, well, Anne spent a week in the hospital with a goiter, and then 2 months later, Uncle George had some acid reflux.
All right.
And I'm like, okay, I don't need those things, but
but those are the kind of cards I want. I want your real life. If you're listen, if you're gonna give me a card,
that's fair.
I just want your real life.
Just
and listen,
be real.
Some years are better than other years. Some years you are gonna have Jimmy making all A's, and everything's gonna go right. And some years it's not gonna go right. But let's be consistent. If we're gonna be honest, let's have a card that is honest, which is all part of this whole negative thing, right? I mean, I understand what you're saying, that yes, you think negatively in order to protect yourself. So we've got to go deep.
Yeah, that's deep.
But the whole part of that is, I was just reading because I knew that you wanted to do this today, and there's this guy Aaron Beck. He's back in the 60s, and he kind of developed this whole like cognitive thinking triangle that he called the 3 C's.
Okay.
And the C's are catch it, check it, change it. So what I thought was really interesting as I was reading this was even the very beginning, catch it. Like if all of a sudden you are Twitter pated, why?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden have you gone off the deep end? What was the thought that put you there? You got to catch the thought.
Yes.
As soon as it happens.
Yeah. Or catch someone else's thought, or you like you said about the Christmas card. My first thought isn't, oh wow, this is perfect, and this is way more than I could ever do with this situation. My first thought is, I'm going to catch that thought and go, it's nice, the card's beautiful, but I can't imagine how much trouble they went to have to try to get that.
See, that's a nice way to think.
It makes it real.
That's a nice way to think too. I'm going to start thinking differently now.
Well, and that's the thing is, you have to start thinking differently. I'm not putting that on you, like personally, but like when I walked in here, you have no idea what mood I'm in. You have no idea what my demeanor is going to be today, right? And the same with you. All I can do is control what I think or how I feel or how I do things.
Absolutely.
So in those situations, I'm choosing to think, hey, look at how much trouble they went through to make this card. Because there's no way they just walked up to this barn in the middle of the woods and were like, you know what?
Let's take a Christmas
camera.
picture.
Somebody got a camera. We all happen to be wearing the exact same pajamas.
So weird. In the middle.
The dog is nicely groomed suddenly, right? And we're just here and we're chilling. Let's just take it. You know what? Let's just take a picture. No, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
There's a lot of planning that goes into that. So
we have to catch the thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Immediately. So one of the first things you do is you catch whatever this negative thought is that you've got going on, because you can't change it if you don't notice it.
So can I share it? Because I think this is where I want to share this anecdote, right?
Oh, yeah.
So about reframing. And I use this all the time, every time even with people in the car, right? So we've all been in that situation where you're driving in the car and there's this guy in front of you, this gal in front of you, and they're doing way lower than the speed limit. They obviously don't know where they're going, and all you want to do is get to fill in the blank. And you have all this anger, this anonymous anger, by the way, because if you saw this person in the street, you would never say a word to them about how angry you are. But because you're in a car, you're isolated, you can yell and shout and they can't hear you. You feel the need to express that. So that's where road rage comes from, is because I'm expecting that person to drive in front of me the same speed and with the same breadth of knowledge of the road as I do, right? So there's a road around here, excuse me, that is quite windy. And I used to commute on this road all the time. 5 days a week, 6 days a week, I'm commuting on this road back and forth each way, sometimes twice a day. I know the road like the back of my hand. We all have a road like that, right? Where we drive a little bit faster than we probably should on the road because I know the road. And I know where the turns are, and I know where I can slow down and where the speedways are and all that stuff, right? So I drive on this road every single day. And one day there's this person in front of me. I don't know who the person is, but they're driving the car. And they're doing, let's say, 25 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone. 20 miles an hour that's a big difference in driving. But I got so angry at this person. You don't know what you're doing. Get off the road. Pull off. Come on. I'm trying to get someplace, right? So the very next week, it happens to be my sister-in-law's birthday was happening. And they had a big, huge soiree for her, right? 3-tier cake, the whole thing. Guess whose job it is to go get the cake? It's my job. And I got to go all the way. I got to commute now on this road with the cake. 3-tier cake. Together, we all pooled our money together. It's a $250, $300 cake. Come hell or high water, I got to get this to the party.
In one piece.
In one piece. Unscathed. And I have to drive on this road, the aforementioned windy road that I know like the back of my hand. But I can't do 45 because I've got a cake in the front seat. So I've got the box in one hand, right? I've got the hand. You know this. You know the move.
I know the move.
Left hand's got the steering wheel at 11 or noon, right?
Yeah.
And I got the box kind of in the front on the right-hand side, right in front of me. And you can beep if you want. You can pull around me. You can do all that stuff. I'm not driving more than 25 miles an hour on this road where it says 45 because I got a cake in the front seat. So you can flip me off. You can yell at me all you want. Come around me. I'm not doing anything. And in that moment, I realized, holy crap, that guy last week, he probably had a cake on the front seat.
Could have had a cake.
So
could have been afraid to drive on a windy road that you knew well.
No.
He definitely had
he definitely had a cake on the front seat because there's no way. No. Otherwise, this whole thing blows up.
Oh, okay. So it's a cake, whatever it needs to be for you. So there was a cake on his front seat.
He had a cake on the front seat. So every time I drive on that road, or any road for that matter, if I'm driving on the arterial through Poughkeepsie, which is most of it is straightaway, and there's a guy doing 25 in the middle lane, and all you want to do is get around this guy, he probably has a cake in the front seat every single time. I, Krista, as honest as I'm sitting here, I say that to myself every time there's a dude or a gal or whatever in front of me, driving in a car,
a dog,
way too slow. He's probably got a cake on the front seat, and he's probably going to a party somewhere, and he's the guy. And I don't listen, bro code. I can't destroy this guy's party by blowing up his spot behind him, honking a horn and making him drive faster.
Making him nervous.
He's got a cake in the front seat.
He's got a cake. And I think
who the hell am I if he's got a cake in the front seat? Who am I? Who am I to rush him along?
And
Guy's
I
got a
think
cake in the front seat.
in your 3-4 minute story, you just covered all the C's before I could even get to them because you caught it, right?
Yeah.
You caught the mistake that you made. You then checked it. How helpful was the thought? And then you changed it because something happened to you.
Because I've been that guy. I've been that guy with the cake in the front seat. And how did I feel? So a lot of this is, how would I feel if I was in that scenario? How would I feel if I was the other person, right?
Right.
So like you said, with the going back to the Christmas card, right? I've made a Christmas card like that. And I know the stress that I had to go through to get everybody's pajamas ready and the cat ready and the dog ready and everybody's looking. And we took 85 shots of it. I know the stress it takes. So why would I assume that they got lucky somehow and didn't have to do that? And I'm some kind of jerk that had to do it 80 times. No, of course not. We all had to do the same thing.
I love it.
Yeah. Because I've been in that situation. I've done that. And if you've not been in that situation, take a half second, turn off the radio, right? But just put yourself in their shoes for a minute.
Sure.
And just go, well, what if I had to do that? Why would I be driving 20 miles an hour lower than the speed limit? Oh, maybe because I've got precious cargo. Maybe because I've got a kid who's throwing up in the back seat. Maybe because I've got a pot of chili that I'm trying to transport. Maybe or you know what? Maybe I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
And I don't want to wreck my car on a back road, some country back road. So
we just have to flip the script, right? So
basically, yeah.
Once you have negative thoughts, the best thing that we can do is flip the script, whether the negative thoughts are about ourselves, whether it's about a situation. And I notice, especially with myself, the more that I do it, the more positive that I feel. Not every situation is a positive situation.
No,
that's
certainly
not
not
what we're saying. Certainly, even if you can neutralize the thought, right? Instead of the thought.
Yeah. Just understanding it, the motivation. But like, again, it still stresses me out that I'm not going to get to my place on time because the guy is doing 20 miles less in front of me. But the thought of me being 3 minutes later than I was supposed to because I'm driving 20 miles an hour faster or slower, I should say. Those 3 minutes are worth me being able to sleep at night going, the guy
Probably had a cake.
Probably had a really great cake in the front seat.
So, this is so here's what I do with it. If somebody slows me down, I just always say to myself, I reframe it too. It's really interesting to see the cake. I love that analogy. I reframe it and say, I wasn't supposed to get to that place at that time. Something happened maybe that I was supposed to miss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there.
That's a little more morbid than the cake thing.
No, but what I mean is,
I know what you mean.
Maybe I would have, gotten to work a couple minutes early, which would have thrown my day a little differently. And then I wouldn't have seen a recipient that needed me here at Sparrow's Nest, or I would have never taken the call in the car, or I would have, whatever it is, I try to look at it differently too. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can't control what's going on outside. I just have to kind of go with the flow, which is a phrase my wife hates to hear.
Go with the flow.
She hates that phrase. Go with the flow. Because she's always got these really rigid expectations of everything. And she's the one that if the coffee machine doesn't make her coffee right in the morning, the whole day is ruined. And I keep trying to tell her to reframe, and it's a challenge. It's hard to do. I'm not saying this is easy. By no means is this easy to do.
No.
You kind of have to train yourself to do this. But like you said, I think the more that you do it, and the more you realize like the positive that does come, the feeling that you get from it when you go, oh yeah, the guy probably did have a cake in the front seat. It makes it that much easier the next time to go, yeah, guys got a cake in the front seat. I'm not even sweating it.
Yeah.
I'm not even sweating it.
And who wants to ruin your day from the beginning? I mean, listen, this podcast, the reason I chose this name is because for those of you that tune in and aren't really sure what this is all about and why the name, we have a charity here. It's called Sparrow's Nest. We're in the Hudson Valley in New York. We feed families that are facing a cancer diagnosis. And, at the end of the day, for me too, like, I think to myself, the fact that guy got in front of me, on a windy road, or I stubbed my toe this morning, or my coffee, tastes like poo, like things could be so much worse. I mean, I'm dealing with cancer patients. We feed them here at the charity. That's what we do so that we can get these families to feel a little bit of normalcy. And day in and day out, I do that all the time. I'm like, is this really something, Krista, worth getting yourself so upset over? Like, just reframe it. Some people don't have that luxury fighting sickness, being diagnosed. Like they're more limited in being able to pull these positive things that you and I can. We just can continue going about our day. So we got to think of that too.
So there was again, going back to the life coaching thing, there's the at least argument, right? Where, something's going bad, but at least I didn't this. or at least it isn't that, right? And you can't see this, the listener, but I was kind of smiling to myself because I'm thinking about an analogy for that. Like when we were in grade school and the kids would bully you, or you would say something like mean about your mom or whatever, right? The comeback was always, oh yeah, well at least I don't, right? And you do that to relieve the tension of that moment. It makes it not as bad. So in our lives, again, the same kind of thing. You could say, at least I don't this, or at least I don't have that, right? Where, to your point about dealing with, the working with the families that are dealing with cancer and whatnot. Yeah, this guy's driving slow in front of me, but at least I don't have to rush to a hospital right now, or at least I don't have to. I don't have to deal with, whatever illness that another family. I'm blessed to not have to worry about that.
And they're called power statements, right?
Yes, yeah.
They're power statements. They're there for you to, and it changes everything. It completely reframes everything.
100%.
Just by using them.
Yeah, and there's little phrases like that you can use that are helpful in that sense.
Yeah.
I like the cake thing. The guy had a
I
cake
like
on
the
front
cake
seat.
thing too.
There was so on occasion I'll have to commute to our Middletown location, the place I work at, and I drive with my boss, and he's a very aggressive driver, and anytime he starts yelling and cursing about whatever guys I always tell him, guy probably has a cake in the front seat. Guy probably has a cake in the front seat.
Probably has a cake in the front seat.
He probably has a cake in the front seat. That's why he can't drive faster.
It does. And you were actually my number one supporter weeks ago. Tom, helps me around Sparrow's Nest doing all great things to make sure that our families get fed. And a few weeks ago, he goes, all right, Krista, listen, you worked for iHeartRadio. Like they're going to pick this up. They're going to pick the podcast up. This is such a great story. He's so cute. He's so cute. So I don't know if Tom knows the outcome of this. So he got off the phone with me, and immediately, because both of us have been on iHeartRadio for years and years, he immediately went to one of his contacts and he's like, hey, this girl now has a charity, but she used to do a morning show, one of your stations, and just talk to her. So this wonderful woman emailed me and we went back and forth. And she says at one point of this email,
oh, I know this. Yeah.
You do know the story because I think you're involved. She's adorable. She goes, all right, so listen, it sounds like, it could be something that eventually could be picked up. And, how many downloads do you get? How many followers do you have? When you get around that 300,000, hold on, a month range, a month, not even a lifetime.
Yeah,
I'm at like 5,000 in 7 weeks. She said, and I immediately, I could have taken that as rejection. I could have, but I giggled and I immediately wrote her back and I said, I think I'm at 1% of that, but this is such a great goal and we're going to get there next year.
Absolutely. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Right?
Because I would have thought the same thing.
I said that. I'm like, oh, that's my number.
Because we're here with our little podcast. We got 5,000 total downloads. And she's like, yeah, we usually take them in when they're at 300,000,
a month.
So a month. So
don't forget the month.
If you're at that range, give us a call.
And maybe then we'll talk to you about it.
Yes. And it could have been very, it could have put you in a bad mood or down.
Not at all.
Put you down.
And you know what else 100%. Too? She probably laughed at the way I responded. She's probably going to remember me when we hit 300,000 downloads a month. Yeah. She's going to be like, oh yeah, Krista, what a good sport she was.
You're finally at 300,000. That's great.
So yeah. Negative Nellies, Stinkin Thinkin, all of that is really something we can control. And that's what we should feel good about.
And it doesn't make you a bad person if you think those things. Those things, everybody has those. And again, they're defense mechanisms. Like you said, 80% of our thoughts, it's a defense mechanism. It's to protect us against some sort of other negative thing. It's our umbrella, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to have those thoughts, but you can't let those thoughts control you or control the way that you behave towards other situations. If you want to be negative all the time, that's up to you. But if you have in your mind, in your heart, that you want to be more positive, if you want to get more out of things, if you want to enjoy things more, you got to change it up. You got to do something different.
Yeah.
And the way to do that different is with these little reframing opportunities. The guy's got a cake in the front seat. Hey, at least I don't have blah, blah, blah. At least I'm not dealing with yada, yada. Right. So it's what were the 3 C's? You said
you have to, first of all, do something.
Catch it. You have it written down.
It. I have it written down.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I thought you had it there.
You have to catch it, right?
Catch it, yeah.
And then after you catch it, you have to do other stuff with it, like you have to check it.
Check it, yes. Yeah, that was the second
right?
one. Yep.
So how helpful is that thought to you? And really, you can talk yourself down.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of us get anxiety over it. So you really just got to go, all right, what is really going to happen? Is this really going to happen because this has happened? And then, right? And then you can change it.
Yes.
Make it a healthier thought. It could be a neutral thought. It doesn't have to be a woo, life is great. Life may not be great for you, but make it a more neutral thought.
Everything that happens to you is an opportunity to change the scenario or change the narrative on it.
100%. I'm so glad that you came in today, Tom.
So am I. I'm
really
glad too.
It has been such a great day with you.
You know, I was stressing this.
You were?
And I'm
Oh, well, guess what?
But I had a cake in the front seat, so it's all good.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to us today. And those sneaky negative thoughts, we're talking about flipping them around on their heads and reminding ourselves that not every thought that we have deserves our belief of the thought. Remember, thoughts aren't facts. They're just stories that your brain's telling you, and you've got the power to rewrite those. I'm challenging you this week when you catch yourself in that spiral of stinking thinking, just pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me or is it holding me back? And if it's the latter, you need to reframe it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and Tom today on Exhausted Sparrows Unite. Remember, it's not about getting it perfect. It's about getting it better.